Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for our 30 on Thursday webinar, an overview of the tools available in Office 365. Just a little bit about Protiviti before we get started. We provide consulting solutions in finance, technology, operations, data, analytics, governance, risk, and internal audit to our clients through our network of more than 70 offices in over 20 countries. Our full-service software solutions team provides consulting and on-demand support for SharePoint, Office 365, Salesforce, Nintex, Sitecore, Kentico, SQL, and .NET.
Julia, we're seeing your Outlook, not the slide presentation, just so you know.
Okay, let me... Okay, I am sorry about that. Let's get... All right, our 30 on Thursday webinar series is a bi-weekly 30-minute webinar series where we talk all things technology. Our next webinar will be on July 19th, where we'll be talking about integrating Teams and Planner for better project management. You can register for that webinar and see our full event schedule at ecm.protiviti.com/events. Protiviti is a Microsoft Gold partner. We provide Office 365 planning, management, and implementation, which includes IT administration and governance planning, Office 365 security assessments, tenant configuration, feature roadmaps, and foundation implementation. In addition to these solutions, we also provide on-demand support and training for Office 365. Josh, our presenter today, is actually a part of our on-demand support team that provides flexible support packages that include a dedicated Office 365 account manager and access to a 24/7 support portal. We also provide private in-person Office 365 training and online training. Both trainings are hands-on, lab-based, and fully interactive. If you are interested in our Office 365 on-demand support, training, or other Office 365 solutions, you can learn more at our website, Office 365, or ecm.protiviti.com. Today's session is being recorded. You can access today's recording and see past webinar recordings on our YouTube channel. For questions during today's presentation, please submit them in the question window of the GoToMeeting toolbar, and we will answer all questions until after Josh's presentation today. Today's presenter is Josh Jackson, Solution Architect here at Protiviti, and I am Julia Marple, and I will be moderating today's session. So let's get started. Josh, I will hand it
over. Okay. Okay, so getting started. Thank you, Julia. Today, as mentioned, we will be discussing Office 365 and all of the applications that are available to you through that service. Microsoft uses the term application very broadly, and it can kind of be difficult to narrow down exactly what they mean by it. But really what we're talking about is anything from the standard Office suite, so that could be Word, Excel, OneNote, all the way up through some cloud-based activities such as Power BI, Flow, or Skype. And all of these things are intended to work together and make it so that you can communicate internally and work better. So as I mentioned, it's very difficult to get Microsoft to define what they mean by an application. But I worked with one of my colleagues at Microsoft to determine that there are approximately 27 applications in Office 365. And that means if you had everything turned on, you had the highest tier license, and you had access to everything, you would see approximately 27 applications on your applications page. Today, we'll only be going through 10 of them. We have a limited amount of time. And as I mentioned, we don't really need to spend a lot of time discussing what Word is or Excel. You just need to know that those are certain applications that are available to you through Office 365. So again, what you have access to depends entirely on your license as well as what your organization is allowing you to have access to. The administrators for Office 365 have the ability to turn on and off certain functionality, which will affect what you see in the applications menu. And there are different tiers available through Microsoft. So what you get there is a bit varies depending on what your organization is paying for and what tier you have access to. It's all very complicated, but I really just wanted to bring it up to let you know that what you see on some of these screens or some of these apps that we go through, if you don't see them available to you, they may be something that your IT department can turn on if you work with them or you discuss it with them and express your needs or the desire to play around with it. So accessing your apps in Office 365 always takes place through the Waffle menu. And by that, I mean in the upper left-hand corner where you see Office 365, or depending on what application you're in, what you see there will vary. So it could say SharePoint or Outlook, but you always see to the left of it that little kind of grid pattern there, and that's called the Waffle menu. And when you click on it, you get a preview of your apps. And this is really meant to be kind of the apps that you are most likely going to be using a lot, or the ones that your organization is really kind of highlighting for your use. So what you see there will vary depending on, again, that level of access that you have. But then if you click on all apps down there at the bottom and scroll down, you'll actually see another link that says explore all your applications. And this takes you to a page, the one that I was saying, where if you had everything turned on, you'd see 27 different items there. It's a page that has a list of all of the applications that you have available to you, including Word and Excel, as well as OneDrive and any of the kind of more cloud-based applications. So that's kind of how you would get to those. If you're not seeing anything in this apps menu, just based on your organization's configuration, you may want to go down to explore all your apps so that you can find everything that you have access to and play around with that stuff. So today, we'll be doing a high-level pass on all of the apps that you see here. We'll be discussing OneDrive. We'll go into a little bit of what teams are and how they differ from groups and when you might want to use each of them. What SharePoint Online is and how it's kind of different from what we've seen SharePoint be in the past. We'll discuss Planner and how you can use that for task management, as well as Delve, which is really intended to help you kind of have insights into your organization and the people that you're working with. We'll discuss video, which is a nice kind of private YouTube in the cloud, if you will. As well as Power BI, which allows you to have insights into the important data, and Flow, which allows you to automate processes. So discussing OneDrive. OneDrive is basically your new way of storing files and you store them in the cloud. People will typically use either their desktop or a file share that's a network drive within their organization. And that's kind of going out the window. That's no longer a viable option for a lot of organizations, and it's much cheaper to move to the cloud. So OneDrive is a way for you to store your files in the cloud, and then you have access to them from anywhere. So you can think of it exactly as if you were sharing something or saving something onto your desktop or your local hard drive, but then you actually have the ability to access it from anywhere. So you can log in from any computer, log into Office 365, and then you'd have access to your files. You can also share these files with people that are internal and external to your organization. So this is a significant improvement over saving something onto your hard drive. You can now actually make it so that it's available to people beyond just yourself without actually having to email a document or something like that. And one little caveat with external sharing, that may be something that your organization does not allow you to do, and then they may have turned that off. A lot of organizations try to keep information kind of close to the vest. So if you don't have the ability to share externally, again, that may be a situation where you want to engage your IT department and discuss with them your needs there. One tip for if you are using OneDrive as a file sharing platform is to create folders. If you have a group of documents that you're working on, let's say you have a main document and maybe some supporting documents and you want to share them with some specific users, I recommend creating a folder for that and then actually sharing the folder. That makes it a lot easier so that the users that you're sharing with, they'll have access to all of the files within the folder versus having to share individual files with people, which can be a bit of a pain. You can also sync your files for offline editing. So while you are working on a Word document, if you're offline, if you're on a plane or something like that, you can actually save your files locally, and then when you have an internet connection, it will sync those files back into OneDrive, making it so that your team can see the latest updates that you made. A little bit of the OneDrive interface here. You'll see a few important things. One being flow. We'll discuss flow in a little bit, but know that you can actually connect flow so that you can create certain actions so that if somebody, for example, comes in and modifies a document in your OneDrive, you could get an actual email notification letting you know that that file has been modified. So that's one example where flow would be useful here. And a few other things that are nice to note. You have a recycle bin so that if you accidentally delete content out of your OneDrive, you can actually retrieve it after up to 90 days after deletion. And you can also have a nice look at what files you have shared or have been shared with you. And then if you click on an individual file, if you check the box next to it, you'll see a few options that open up, such as the ability to edit it directly in Word Online or your Word desktop application, as well as the ability to share information or rename things, or again, connect it to Flow. And then another nice feature of OneDrive is that it does have version history. So version history is something that SharePoint has traditionally done very well, and OneDrive has piggybacked on that a little bit. You still don't get robust document management capabilities with OneDrive, so we don't recommend using OneDrive as like a full-blown document management or records management tool. There are too many limitations for it. But if you're working on simple collaboration with specific groups for a kind of finite amount of time, then we definitely recommend using OneDrive for kind of quick collaboration. Moving on to Teams. This is a new concept through Office 365. And it basically extends that concept of working with a small group, but adds in more functionality. So if you had just a need to share a document or two with people, then OneDrive would definitely be sufficient. But if you have more need for collaboration, then Teams are definitely a viable option. Teams help integrate chat using Skype, connects everybody through meetings using Outlook for meeting invitations, and then you can use OneNote actually to collect the information about the meeting, so who attended, as well as collect your notes regarding the meeting, and then share them with the team automatically. And then any attachments that are shared throughout the group will automatically be stored into a SharePoint library. This allowing you to have records management capabilities in SharePoint. And then there are mobile apps for all of these individual applications, and they all recognize if you create a team, they'll all recognize that is kind of a connected piece there. And all of those mobile apps will work together to make it so that depending on what your activity is, it'll all be synced up with not only your individual device and all the applications on your device, as well as your team members, and connecting it directly into the cloud. So if you're looking at a team, just the Team tab in the Office 365 applications, you'll see all of the different teams that you have. You can have different channels within a team, so these could be maybe different work streams that you're working towards. And then you can you'll have the different conversations. So again, that's the Skype conversation type functionality there. You'll have your files and your OneNote, and then depending on what capabilities you have turned on, you'll see some different activities there. For groups, Office 365 groups really just kind of expand your team functionality. So again, a team is kind of a small group of people that are working towards a specific goal. And then groups might actually be a larger team, or a larger group, or a kind of more continuous activity. So you can think of like a long-term project versus just kind of a short sprint like revising a document. So again, it'll be larger groups of people that are, so it's more complicated work and working together for longer periods of time. So there will be more content over time generated. So you need kind of more robust capabilities for managing your group as well as your content. So in addition to everything that you get with your teams, you'll also get a plan for your individual groups, as well as a email group. So this allows you to communicate externally. So you can add in external users, you can email them. They'll have more or less the same experience as people within your organization, but it allows you to open it up to a larger group. And you'll have a full-blown SharePoint site. So with a team where you get a SharePoint library to store your documents, with a group, you actually get a full-blown SharePoint site where you're able to apply more of your metadata structure, more records management, as well as creating lists and some of the other functionality that you get in SharePoint that goes above and beyond just simple records management. So if you look at a group, you'll see it is a much more robust interface. You have the ability to search your group. You can add in, it creates by default a few of the kind of useful lists like quick links and an activity feed and the ability to add announcements to communicate with your group, as well as some of the basic things like conversations, documents, your OneNote notebook, and having individual pages for different information. And when you're looking at a group in email or in Outlook, you'll see you have a lot more functionality where you have the conversations, kind of everything that you're seeing in your SharePoint site, but a little bit more functionality there and a little bit more of an interface that is targeted at whatever kind of approach you're doing. So whether you're having a quick chat about something or if you're working on a file, it tailors that interface there. So SharePoint, it has been around for a very long time. I myself have been working on it for almost 12 years. And it's gone through a lot of changes. And it's always been capable of morphing and kind of trying to keep up with the way that the modern world is working. And SharePoint Online is no different. So kind of the classic SharePoint has been updated for more of a modern world. And what I mean by that is that it has a much stronger focus on mobile friendly, whether that is your phone or a tablet or a laptop, or it doesn't really matter. SharePoint wants to work for whatever device you're on, and it wants to make that easy for the people that are making these, that are adding the content. So beyond beyond a focus on just making the pages easier for mobile devices and for scalability, there's also a focus for creating apps that can take in the information that you have and automatically make it easier for you to consume and to interact with, so that you can update information while you're on the go. So it's still the good old SharePoint. It's still great for communications. It's still a top-tier intranet platform. It also has some of the best records management as well as document management capabilities that are out there, and none of that's changed. But it's really just kind of morphed a little bit to make it easier for you to create things like extranets. So as I mentioned earlier, you can, in Office 365, it's a lot easier to share content outside of your organization. So you can invite external users without having to set up a whole DMZ or anything like that. You really can just kind of section off certain areas and make it so that only the right people are able to communicate and work externally. It also has extended the capabilities of search. So Powerful Search is now able to reach out across all of your content that you have access to. And that's not just within SharePoint. That is now kind of across all of Office 365. So if you start doing searches and you'll see content coming up from someone's Delve page or something like that, and that's because it's pulling across everything that's available to you to kind of give you the most information that it possibly can. There is, with SharePoint Online, there's top-tier data security and data loss prevention. So there are tools and technologies built into SharePoint Online that make it so that you can really tailor and control what your users are able to upload. So if you wanted to, for example, not prevent your users from uploading social security numbers, you can actually put in controls that will flag that information and take appropriate steps. And that's something that is available in the new SharePoint 2016 on-premise environment, but it is kind of being pioneered through the SharePoint Online. It's also great because it has easy administration. This is true across all of Office 365. The administration piece has really been streamlined, and it takes a lot of the headache away from your IT administrators. And it has lower overhead costs. So instead of having something on-prem, which costs a lot, you now have the ability to have it in the cloud, have Microsoft worry about the infrastructure, and you really just pay for the services that you need. Moving on to Planner. Planner is a task management tool that is integrated into Office 365. So with Planner, you can create both public and private plans. Public means that they're available to anyone in your organization to go in and look at your plans. And private really just means that the plans are available to only the people that you've assigned to the plan. And again, with plans, if you have an Office 365 group, those are connected to the plan. So if you have a Office 365 group and you add a bunch of people in there, they will be able to see the content that you have in your plan. With Planner, you can track tasks across buckets, so you can easily create buckets. You can drag and drop tasks across them. It's really easy to assign tasks to individuals, and you also have a lot of capability to tag other characteristics within your tasks. And it allows you to work with your team. So you can assign tasks, you can share your plan with the people that you want to have access to it, and when they make updates or when you make updates, people will see those in real time. There is a application available on your mobile device for tasks, as well as the Office 365 interface for Planner. And so this is just kind of an example of what Planner looks like, where you have these individual buckets, and you can you add in tasks to those buckets. You can have individual steps for tasks and due dates and things like that. And you also have the ability to get some kind of some visualizations into your plan. So here you can see things like how many tasks are late versus tasks that are in progress or not started, as well as tasks by the members that they're assigned to. So Planner is just a really nice, easy interface that is integrated into Office 365, and you get all the benefits of Office 365 when you're using Planner. Delve is a new-ish technology. It's really meant to replace My Sites, which is the old concept in SharePoint, where you have a site that is your own site and you can upload your content there. You can add some information about yourself. It was kind of a flawed process in the past, and so they've really extended the functionality. They took that concept and they extended it further to make it so that your Delve profile is not just in SharePoint, it's across all of Office 365. And it allows you to manage your personal profile, so you can go in there, you can add information about yourself, your skills, your experiences, things you're interested in, and that becomes visible to the rest of the organization. It also goes out and it will pull in information from all of Office 365. So if you have a plan with some tasks assigned to you and you have a SharePoint site where you've been working on some documents, it'll actually pull all that information together and make it easier for you to kind of look at what you've been working on. So if you have a lot of different sites and a lot of activity and you're just kind of all over the place, you might want to start moving towards going to your Delve page, which will have kind of a quicker access to all that stuff. And the sites and the content that you interact with the most tends to rise to the top on your Delve page, making it easier to find what you're working with frequently. And then, as mentioned, you can search for the skills or experiences of other coworkers if you're looking to build a specific team. And then content is suggested based off of your activities and interactions. So as you work with people, as you start following people, content will start kind of rising to the top based off of your interactions with them. So here's a quick look at what my Delve profile page looks like. And you can see some of the contact information, as well as a schedule and documents I've been working on, as well as people I've been interacting with. And then here are Delve document suggestions. So these are different documents that Delve thinks I would be interested in working on based off my previous activity. And I'm running out of time a little bit, so I'll move along a little bit faster. So video is basically your organization's own private YouTube channel. It's a way for you to upload videos into the cloud. You can categorize them just to keep documents grouped by topic. So you might want to have a different channel for each department that you have. So HR can post videos about what's going on in HR, and payroll can post videos about payroll. That's one potential use case. And then once you have those videos in uploaded into Office 365, you can actually display them directly into SharePoint. So if you had maybe a video from your CEO that addressing a specific topic, you could have a page with that topic and documents, and then you could actually embed that video directly in there. You can also get some detailed user analytics, which are pretty nice. So if you look at the video analytics for video, you'll see you have the ability to look at viewer trends. So when the viewership activity, so it looks like this video was launched on 6/3 and got some activity, and then there have been a couple peaks. You can look at that from like a 14-day basis or a monthly basis going out the past 36 months, as well as viewer engagement. So this is the amount of viewers at different milestones within the video. So if you had a long video, you can see kind of where you were losing users or where people were clicking out of the video. Power BI is a business intelligence tool that is available through Office 365. You do need some of the higher tier licenses to access it. Also, just note that for Power BI, there are certain licenses that allow you to just view the content versus actually working with it. So if you need to interact with Power BI, then again, I would recommend working with your IT department. But it's used to visualize and analyze complex data. So you can pull in data from multiple sources, you can layer it, you can create interactive dashboards. A lot of people compare it to Excel because Excel does have a lot of charting and graphing and dashboarding capabilities. But Power BI is much more extensible. You can publish your dashboards to the web so that people can log on, they can directly interact with your dashboards. And it's also mobile friendly, so you actually will have the ability to view that from your mobile device. It's also easier to maintain and set up than Excel. Excel can be a little bit kludgy, and it can be easy to break certain formulas and things like that. So just an example of Power BI, you can see you can do certain things like geographically mapping data. You can have timelines related to data with different size bubbles relating to different size activities, things like that, as well as line graphs. So you can see you have a lot of capabilities through your Power BI. If you do have data graphing needs, then we'd recommend looking into that. Flow is a new way to automate business processes. So it allows your end users to quickly build workflows and automate repetitive tasks. There's a lot of things out there that users want to automate, but it's always been something like, oh, you need SharePoint Designer, and then it only works in SharePoint, or there's always kind of one-off situations. With Flow, all you really need is your web browser and access to Flow. You can connect to a bunch of different services. So if you wanted to connect to Box or Google Drive or things like that, you actually have the ability to do that, to use Flow to trigger off of certain things, so that if you maybe get an email, you could create something in another system. So it's really just a way to kind of quickly automate things. And with Flow, there's actually a bunch of pre-built templates that are used to help users get started. So if we take a look at that, these are just kind of the top workflow or top Flow templates that are out there. So things like, send myself a reminder in 10 minutes. You can actually create a flow and say, okay, I want to be reminded on this thing, and then it'll wait and then just trigger itself to send you a reminder. Or you can start simple approval processes, or send customized emails. So you can see there's a lot of options that are available through Flow, and we recommend looking at those templates. We don't have time to go through this, but we do have a updated template on suggestions on when to use what, and we'll be putting this out via blog, and I'm sure some other emails and whatnot. Julia will be sending this out. But this is a really great overview of what these different tools are. Obviously, we didn't cover all of these, but it covers what the various tools are that are available to you, and then some recommended use cases there. So that's all I have. I know I went right up to my time. Julia?
Okay, great. We do have several questions here. So let's try to get through these. Does everyone a part of an Office 365 group get a notification when a planner task is assigned?
No, they don't. In fact, the last time I played around with this, I believe that you don't even get email notification if a planner task is assigned to you. That may have changed. But that would be a situation where we would recommend looking into something like Flow, where you could set up a task where if somebody gets assigned, that it could send them an email.
Okay, great. Can multiple people edit a document that is saved on OneDrive at the same time?
Yes, they can. If you're using let's say you're using Word and you're using the Word Online interface, you can actually take advantage of the co-authoring capabilities there in OneDrive. It's not just limited to SharePoint.
Okay, great. Can Teams be integrated with Zoom?
I am not sure.
Okay.
That is something we have to look at and get back to them on that.
Okay. Has Microsoft added the ability to create a standalone planner, or do all planners still create an Office 365 group by default?
You can have your own plans. So if you go to the Planner app in Office 365, you can actually create your own standalone plan, but you have to go through Planner to do that.
Okay. And when would I use OneDrive versus SharePoint for storing documents?
So with OneDrive, I like to recommend it for documents that I call kind of like throwaway documents. They're not documents that are things that you are of critical information to the company or have records retention needs. So if you just had maybe a document that's a work in progress and you just kind of wanted to quickly work on it, then we would recommend using OneDrive. But if you have things that need like an audit trail or records management, if you need to, if the versions of the documents are important, that's when you start getting into looking at SharePoint. Also, if you have a lot of complicated documents, so if you have really strong need for complicated metadata, then we would definitely recommend using SharePoint over OneDrive, which really doesn't have any metadata capabilities.
Okay, great. We do have a couple more questions. Let's do one more. It sounds like once Flow is turned on, everyone can create flows and can run against the site once they have access to it. How can we control that?
You can definitely create or limit people's capabilities of creating flows. So if you have users in a visitors group, then they won't be able to create flows on your site. So there are different levels of permissions that you can actually use to control what users are capable of doing.
Okay, great. Thank you all for attending today's webinar. Thank you, Josh, for all the great information. I know you kind of went fast there and wasn't able to cover everything, but the graph that Josh showed at the end, when to use what for Office 365 features, we will be distributing that to all of today's webinar attendees, so you guys can have that as a feature guide when using Office 365. The webinar recording will also be posted on our YouTube channel, so you can check that out if you would like to rewatch today's presentation. Thanks, Josh, again. Thanks, everyone, for attending, and we will see you next month where we will be talking about Office 365 tools for project management. Have a great day, everyone.